Good. Yesterday we learned, the last 3 days actually, and we're learning also about this idea of Yaakov and putting the rocks together. But here we're learning about something a little bit different. The attitude that we're supposed to take toward God, our attitude. In Torah Or, we discussed how God reacts to what we do and what the goal is. But here's the attitude. So the Rebbe says, if you look, you see a very interesting thing, that Yaakov, he came to this place, and it says the place is the place of the Holy Temple. And the first thing he did, he reaches the Holy Temple, and he lays down and goes to sleep. And so the Rebbe said, what is this coming to teach us? I mean, he went in you can't sleep in the Holy Temple. You can't do a thing like that. Why did he lay down and go to sleep in the Holy Temple? Why? And it says even more. 14 years he sat and learned Torah. After he ran away from his brother, he ran away from his father's house because his brother Esav wanted to kill him. So he said that for 14 years he sat and learned Torah and didn't go to sleep. And then we're going to see a little bit later in this week's Torah portion that 20 years he worked for his two wives and all the sheep. 20 years, it says all that time he didn't go to sleep. That's what it says in the Torah. Maybe he slept a little tiny, 10 minutes or something, but he didn't go to sleep. No visuals. And here he comes to the Holy Temple, where the place of the Holy Temple is. He says, how holy this place is. I did not know how holy this place is. And what does he do? He goes to sleep. But he says, how could you do it like that? This doesn't make any sense. And especially we're talking about Yaakov, Jacob, that he's the choice of the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How could he go to sleep? So he says, that's our attitude we're supposed to have when we serve God. Because what does God want? God wants that he should be revealed here in the world. Revealing God here in the world means we cannot go according to our standards. We can't go according to our urges and our, they say, philosophies and the conclusions. We can't go according to our own personality. No matter how genius we are, and no matter how successful we've been with our ideas in the past, when it comes to God and serving God, you can't go according to what you understand. You can't do it. Once in a while, you can get it right? But more than likely, you won't get it right. And serving God means that everything has to be on God's, according to God's criteria. So sometimes things that really feel good to you are really bad. And sometimes things that really feel bad to you are really good. So how are you supposed to decide? What are you supposed to decide? It says, whatever it says in the Torah, it says that Yaakov knew the whole Torah before it was given. So he knew what was right and wrong. That does not in any way make it easier to go against your nature. A person could know the whole entire Torah. There were examples in the Torah. There was the famous ones written, Yerovim ben Nevat. He said he was so holy, he knew so much Torah that when he would learn the Torah, that fire would be all around him. He was such a genius, knew everything. He was chosen by a prophet to be the king of Israel, to be the king of the 10 tribes. Yerovim ben Nevat. That was the level of awareness and holiness and highness that he had. And it ended up that he built 2 golden calves and convinced everyone to worship idols. Because Jewish people like idolatry. They used to like it more back then. They like idolatry. And he decided it was for his benefit that people should serve idols and not to go down to the temple. It's a whole long political story, but nevertheless, that's what happened. So it can be the same thing with us. As soon as we put more, we give more validity to our intellect than we do to our deeds. So it could come out a tragedy like Yeravam ben Nevat. All of a sudden, he can decide one day, maybe I won't do this commandment. Maybe I'll worship idols. Maybe, and he does it, and it feels good. And suddenly, that's it. He's gone against the Torah, and he thinks that he's calling the shots. So says the Rebbe, how can we do it? What are you supposed to do? Your head and your feet have to be at the same level. If God says to do something and your mind says don't do it, so disregard your mind. Your feet will do it. Agree with your feet. The Torah says you shouldn't lie, but you figure out some reason why it's a good thing to lie. My yeshiva will get more money if I lie, and etc. like that. So your understanding is like this, but go according not to your understanding. Go according to your feet. Your feet understand what's right. Your feet understand what's no. Your feet know that whatever God says, that's what you do. That's what you should do. It says, according to this, now we can understand why Yaakov, when he came to this place called Haran, that by means of this, he had the ability to overpower the evil that was in Haran. Make this my pointer over here. And even more, he could join and he could unite the upper worlds and the lower worlds, because the whole novelty that he made by means of going to Haran, right? This thing of laying down and being the same level, this is a preparation for him going to this terrible place, which is called Haran, which over there, like the mayor or whatever the city was, Lavan, who he was a charlatan and a con man and tremendously successful, tremendously powerful. And it was ruled over there by Lavan. And he had to go, he was alone, he didn't have anybody with him whatsoever. And he had to go over there and not only defeat Lavan, he had to take Lavan's daughters, get married to them, and take the property of Lavan, work for it. You get it? How could he possibly do that? Over there by Lavan, the worst place in the world, that's where Yaakov made the 12 tribes. Shivte Yudke, they're called. Davka specifically in this low place. Into the degree that mitato shlema. Abraham gave birth to his 2 sons in Israel. Yitzchak gave birth to his 2 sons in Israel. And nevertheless, Abraham had a bad son, Yishmael, and Yitzchak had a bad son, Esau. And Yaakov, he gave birth to all of his sons outside of Israel, in the worst place in the world, the most decadent and crooked place in the world. And there he gave birth to pure children. Well, Hosif to add on, now according to this, now we can understand what rabbis say, that by Yaakov it says that his family was complete. But it doesn't say that. It says that his bed was complete. Mitato shlema. It doesn't say that his offspring were complete. This is also the explanation of mata, below. The word mata is the same letters. Maila umata. Mata means below. Matato shlema means that the lowest world was complete. Also the mata, the lowest world, he made it complete. And even more than this, that in such a place was shchiva, like he laid down on his bed, a person lays down on his bed, that then his head and his feet and his head and his body and his feet are at the same level. There he revealed how it is to make this low world, mitato, mata means below, shlema, complete. Shlemus means the complete revelation of God. Hamash v'katan gadol, that makes the highest worlds and the lowest worlds equal. And this can only be done in Haran. Mata. It's almost like, they dig for gold. Why isn't gold just laying on the ground? You have to dig. It's dangerous. You have to dig in the ground. Pearls, you have to go down deep into the ocean in order to get them. Right? It's dangerous. You have to go. Why are the precious things, why are they connected with low and with danger? Why? That's the way God made the world. In fact, that's the whole essence of what the world is. The world is just waiting for us to reveal the treasure that's there. Yaakov was the first one to do it. He left Israel, went to Haran, worst place in the world, and specifically there, only there, could he make a perfect family. Maisa avosim lebanim. This is what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did to us. That's a sign. Did what they did. That's a sign to us. What are we supposed to do? Hishtavud. We're supposed to look at equanimity. That's the word, equanimity. Everything is supposed to be equal. Bein chalak of elyon, whether the highest things in the world or the lowest things. Even the lowest things in the world, but like it says regarding to Moses, it says mata elokim biyado. Another word for mate means below, and mate also means a bed, mita, a bed, but also mata means a staff. Like the stick of Moshe was called a mata elokim, the staff of God. Sha'al yado, that by means of this, he can make all of the miracles. He can make miracles, and he can make all sorts of proofs of God, be'eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt. Milashin meitzar v'gavul. So if you ever wondered, like this past Shabbat, so we read the whole book of Psalms. You read the book of Psalms, I mean, you can read it in English. The troubles that King David had are just incredible. And the same thing with the Jewish people. The Jewish people started off in exile with troubles. Once there was some big rabbi, he called himself a rabbi anyway, and he said that, the evil Jews are going to get punished. This was when Saddam Hussein was shooting rockets. Now the evil ones are going to get punished, and the bad Jews are going to get punished, and that's why there was the Holocaust. There's going to be another Holocaust. They're going to get punished for the sins. And the rabbi said, "How can you say such stupid things like that?" He said, when Isaiah even mentioned something about Jews getting punished, he got all sorts of, God got very angry at him. He said that the troubles that come from the Jews come because they're bad. No, explain why is the Jews were in Egypt for 200 years. They didn't do any bad. Why did King David have so many troubles? Because he did bad things. But because the whole purpose of the Jewish people is to transform bad into good, to find what is the reason for us coming down. That's what it says. From a narrow place you call out to God. And from there it comes, and then God answers in a wide way. Revealed the true essential highness, wideness of the essence of God. Even since because the completion of refinement of the world is brought about only by means of revealing the essence of God, which that's higher than any distinctions of high and low and good and bad. When that's revealed, then all the bad disappears. All the evil can't exist. Evil, disease, the depression, aggression, addictions, all these things only exist because we're in a dark world. As soon as the lights go on, all these things disappear. And then suddenly you realize that there's no low and there's no high. You realize that what? The Jews and God are totally one. Like we was explained before, last week we explained what a Jew is. Remember we explained last year the birth of the moon. We said what a Jew really is. Since the main thing of the service of Yaakov in Haran that was told about in this week's Torah portion was regarding to what Yaakov did himself. There were no other people particularly. Revealing Achduso Aneshama, Yaakov revealed the essence of what his soul was. He stood up under these tests, and how high the soul is, how high, even higher the body is. That's what it means, mitatosh lemo, that his bed was complete, the lower worlds were complete. Hariya pu'ula more, that what it said has to be also not just in regarding to yourself, like Yaakov did, but also in the world. This comes afterward to next week's Torah portion, where Yaakov sends messengers in front of him to Esav. The word messengers is also the same word as angels in front of him. He went to the place called Seir and Sidei Adom. This is talking about mainly by really refining the world. This week's Torah portion is talking about more what Yaakov did for himself. He established the Jewish people. He did the 12 tribes. In other words, he founded the Jewish people. Next week is going to talk about really dealing with the world. Esav came to actively kill Yaakov. He came to actually physically kill him. It says he bit him on his neck. He wanted to love and wanted to trick Yaakov. He wanted to cheat him. He wanted to take everything that he had away. But he wasn't as murderous as Esav. Esav's whole thing was murder. Lavan was not a murderer. Lavan was a thief. He was a criminal. But Esav was an outright murderer. He murdered a lot of people, Esav. And Esav, that's really the world. That's really the world. It says that true anti-Semitism really began with Esav. Esav was Yaakov's twin brother. It says, as Yaakov, it's in next week's parsha, we'll see. Third portion was that Esav hates Yaakov. He said he tried to bite him. Bite his neck. Before it's explained the Chassidus, so this week it's talking more about Yaakov fixing up himself and the Jewish people. Next week is talking about going really into the world. Yaakov is what's called tikkun, and Esav is what's called tohu. Now, these are two levels which are talked about, and we've talked about it also in Kabbalah. And these are levels which are preparatory stages in the creation of the world. Preparatory stages in the creation of the world. God wanted there to be a world, and he wanted there to be a world where he would be concealed. And he wanted there to be a world where he would put man, and man would reveal God more and more in the world. That's what God wanted. So this propensity of the world to cover over God, that's called tohu. The potential to do sin, the potential to oppose God, the potential to be separate from God, that's called tohu, egotism. And Yaakov, he's what's called tikkun. Tikkun means harmony, means working together, the opposite of egotism, unity. Tohu is separateness. Yaakov, he sent messengers to Esav because he thought that Esav had already done his work. Esav was his brother. Esav was really in the world. Esav really had personality problems, challenges. Yitzchak, the father of both of them, saw this, and he figured he could fix up Esav by giving him a big blessing. That was last week's Torah portion. But he was wrong. He was wrong. Yitzchak wanted to do it. He was wrong because he wanted to do it quickly. He wanted to have a quick change. And only in that he was wrong. But that he could change him, he was right. Yitzchak knew that he could change Esav, and it was true, he could. And he knew that Esav was potentially very, very good. Even though externally he was ostensibly it was terrible. He was a murderer, he was a rapist, he was the worst. But Yitzchak knew, his father Yitzchak knew that Esav had good potential, and he wanted to bless him, but he wanted to do it quickly. And Yaakov, Rivka really is Yaakov's mother. Yaakov realized it couldn't be done. It had to be done gradually. Okay, now the gradually has happened. Gradually has happened. Right? He worked 20 years by Lavan. This is next week, we'll talk about this. He worked 20 years by Lavan. He built up the Jewish people. He now has the sheep and what he's earned by Lavan. It's tremendous. He's taken the physical and elevated it to the spiritual. He's elevated the spiritual and the physical to godliness. Yaakov accomplished it. And now he hears his brother's meeting. Now his brother has been searching for him already for what, 34 years. His brother's been searching for him to kill him. 34 years he's been trying to find out where he is. In those days, there was no surveillance cameras or whatever. And didn't have passports to go from one place to the other. So you couldn't track a person where he was. 34 years he's been looking for him. 14 years he would learn in Torah, and 20 years he learned by Lavan. So now he's looking for 34, maybe a little bit more, because he was traveling on the road. So finally he meets up with him. So Yaakov, this is next week, right? So Yaakov realizes, okay, I finished doing my work by Lavan. I've refined that part of the world that's relevant to me, right around me, to make my family, to have my children, right, my wives. And now Bnei Yisrael were complete. What the Jewish people were whole. And now I'm ready to meet up with Esav. And I'm sure that Esav has been doing his part also, because we were really partners in this business, me and Esav. Right? I just kept the shop going at home, and Esav, he's been working in the world. So he thought that Esav had also finished his work. So therefore, it could be that they could join together and make the tremendous lights, godliness, which Yaakov had achieved, and fix up and unify that with the vessels, tohu, the separateness that Esav has worked with. That Esav has done his job in the evil, terrible world, and he has succeeded in unifying even the powers of murder and destruction and unifying that all to serve God, so there won't be such a thing. And says Yaakov, I've purified the cheating and lying, and I've established the Jewish people. Now we can unify the whole thing. Heavens and earth will come together. Tikkun, which is my thing, godliness, and tohu, which is the world, can be united. There'll be lights and vessels together. This is the completion of the world. But the world will be a vessel to godliness, and even more, that it will unite in a total unity with the spiritual. It says in the raising of the dead, all the souls will leave heaven. They'll come back into physical bodies. The dead will rise. How is this going to be? It says by means of the revelation of God's essence, which is above both of them. That's what we just finished learning in Torah Or. The essence of God is above spiritual, it's above physical. That will unite them all together to this physical world will reveal all the spiritual levels. Good, happiness, blessing will be in every moment of the we'll see every person will feel important, empowered to do good. Shekala inyanim, that everything will be revealing God's essence. Therefore, everything can be one. That's what Yaakov thought. It's going to be a big happy meeting with my brother Esav, who he's fixed up the world. He's brought the world up to godliness, and I have brought godliness down to the world. Now it's going to be a perfect place. But actually, Esav was not ready. Esav did not. This is only be in the future. It's like the saying that it's a joke. I mean, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's never too late to repent. Never too late to repent. No matter what you've done, you can always return to God, and God will forgive you. Never too late. So a person says, really, never too late? No matter what I've done in the past, never too late. So if it's never too late, so I'll do it tomorrow. I'll repent tomorrow. Meanwhile, I want to do a couple of sins right now because I got people waiting for me. I got the big parties and things like that. And it's never too late. You sure it's never too late? Yeah, so I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I'll do it next week. Next week I'll do it. Never too late. That's what Esav thought. Esav thought if I can get fixed up, and it's never too late to get fixed up and fix up the whole past, so I'll get fixed up in another week, another month. Maybe 1 minute before I die, I'll fix myself up. You can do it, right? Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but so I'll do it. Listen, it might not work out that way. Yeah, but it might, yes. Meanwhile, I'm having a good time. That was Yaakov. That was Esav. I'm sorry. Not that. That was Esav. Esav was not fixed up. Like it says, Ad asher avo elad anisera. When will it get fixed up? Only in the future. Only in the future. When will Amosai Yelech be? Amosai Yelech says, when will Yaakov and Esav meet up? In the days of the Moshiach. Like it says, Olam Moshiach, the saved ones, the Jews, will come to the mountain of Zion, Jerusalem, Lishpot et Har Esav, and they will judge the house of Esav, which essentially is Rome, essentially. Like we're going to learn later on. Esav becomes Edom, and that's what becomes the church and becomes this. Shtei Parshos, these two sections, which are called V'yetze, V'yishlach, this week's Torah portion, where Yaakov deals with Lavan, and next week when he deals with Esav in the service of Yaakov Avinu, that these are the first places in the Torah that is explained how we are supposed to work in this world. This reveals the whole content and the purpose of the service, why we have Torah and the commandments. And especially after the Torah was given. This story of Yaakov, of course, was before the Torah was given. Why do we have Torah? Why do we have commandments? Why did God take us out of Egypt? Why did he do all these things? Why is this all happening? In order to refine the physical body and the world. To make them kli l'ruchnius and neshama, to make them a vessel for the spiritual soul. Until the gashmis asma, until the physical world reveals the power hapoel benifel. It reveals the power of the doer, the creator in the creation. V'nasi davar echad, and becomes one. The nimshach echad shel ruchnius. The hemshech. I'm sorry. The hemshech echad shel ruchnius. That this physical world is just an expression of the spiritual, until the world becomes a dwelling for God in this physical world. I mean, I have to bring this example again. I'll just bring an example again. But if like in music, so you have a piano, you have a violin, right? These two instruments especially are unique. Yeah, but what's a piano? Take a piano. What is a piano? It's a piano. It's a bunch of wood, a bunch of metal, and you put the whole thing together. And I guess the keys are made from whatever plastic, ivory, whatever they're made from. You get a whole heap of this materials. Piano is like really heavy. What can you do with these materials? Absolutely nothing. What can you do? It's just that you put them together properly, so you have a piano. So what is it? What's a piano? What does it mean? Right? If you don't know how to play the piano, or you know how to play the piano, but you don't know how to play it properly, so it's terrible. It's just terrible. It makes the joke about the fellow that says, I have a drum set that tells time. Says it tells time. How's the drum set? Come over to my house, I'll show you. It says, starts playing the drums. The next door neighbor pounds, hey, it's 3 a.m. What are you playing the drums? Tells the time. The guy doesn't know how to play. He doesn't play. You have a piano that plays properly. It plays nice. All of a sudden, the whole physicality, all these problems that came with all this metal and all this, it just disappears. Just as, whoa, that is something else. That is just something that's amazing. So it comes out that the spiritual, which is the music, can only be revealed through the physical. It can only be revealed through this physical instruments. How much more so like you have an orchestra with all these little pieces of metal that are called horns and trumpets and bassoons and whatever it is. And you put them all together, and it's what can you do with it? But people who know how to play, you don't see the players, you just see the music, beautiful, beautiful music. People go crazy, they're all crying and they're weeping. It says that's the whole idea why God gave the Torah, to make this whole world into like a symphony, to take all the physicality of this world and to reveal spirituality. But there's something more than both. What unites both the physical and the spiritual? The composer, the players, the music itself, revealing the essence of God in the world. Suddenly something totally unbelievable comes from the world itself. A type of harmony and beauty comes from every detail of the world that you could never imagine, greater than the greatest, most beautiful music you could hear. Listen, in the end, when you go and hear somebody, playing the piano or whatever, so it's somebody else, it's not really you. You're just participating in the music. Here, every single one of us becomes an expert, a virtuoso. That every moment of life becomes harmony. This is revealed. Okay, so it says that's what it is in the future. Kafisha, like it'll be in the future redemption. That then Yizdachech Gashmis, the physical body and the world will be elevated and will be able to receive the light and the awareness of God. Like it says, Nigla Kabodavaya Varal Kol Basar, like it says, will be revealed the glory of God, and all flesh will see together. A sentence from Isaiah, that the mouth of God is speaking. Let's see where this is. Here, Isaiah, chapter 40 of Isaiah. The whole world will see that the word, God himself is speaking. Flesh itself, physical, roll called basar, not just your eyes will see, your flesh will see God. What does that mean? Because there will be a complete revelation of the Creator in the creation, until even more. It says not just human beings will see godliness, but the stones in the walls will cry out. the Nifal Gashmi, that the physical world specifically are stones or plants and animals, that they will all declare the oneness of God. How much more so the body of a human being? It's even higher. The physicality of it itself will reveal the kol tzaka, with a loud announcing voice, the creator, the spirituality which is in it. Even more, the will of God which is in it. Why God creates stones? Why is he creating? And it'll be like it says in the future, nekeva tesovev gever. Like it says in the future, that in Jeremiah, it says Jeremiah, that the feminine will be higher than the masculine. Here's a footnote, which we'll go back to this. Let's go back to this footnote, but let's just see. Let's hear. First of all, let's finish this paragraph. That's what it called. The upper will of God will be revealed in the physical world, like it says, the physical world, which that's now the aspect of physical, Mother Earth, will be higher than Gever, will be higher than the spiritual worlds. That's what we call God masculine, because he's giving. Well, the feminine worlds will be higher than the masculine. The soul will be nurtured by the body. Let's look at this footnote over here. We have a nice footnote. It says, what does it mean? The stone, this is Torah portion. It says the stones will announce godliness. Evan Mikir Titzak. Stones will announce godliness. What does it mean stones will give God? It says, even the stones will make a house of God. Like we said before, that the walls of the stones will be a wall of holiness. Like it says, Vayisav Chezkiel Panav Elakir. It says that God gave Chezkiel a vision, and he turned his face to the wall, and he prayed to God. Prayed to God. Also in Isaiah, it says the same thing. I'm sorry. Chezkiel, the king. The king Chezkiel turned his face to the wall and he prayed. Very interesting story. It says that King Chezkiel, he was supposed to be Moshiach. He was supposed to be Moshiach. He made a small mistake and he was disqualified, but he was supposed to be Moshiach. All those prophecies that you see in Isaiah 50 and all this, he suffered for our sins and this, it means the Jewish people, they're one. But it also means Chezkiel, the king suffered. Anyway, so he was very sick and he was dying. And he called Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, to tell me what's going on. So Isaiah said, well, you didn't get married. And because he didn't get married, so he said, I saw my sons are going to be big sinners. So that's not your business. Those are the mysteries of God. Kivshe the Rahman Allah Malach. Don't worry about, that's the mysteries of God. That's not your business. But it's too late. God decided already you're going to die, and there's nothing you can do. It's decreed. It's decreed you're going to die. Isaiah was a big prophet. He was never wrong, never was wrong. But the fact is, as a prophet is never wrong if he says good things. But if a prophet says bad things, it could be that the Jewish people will repent, which that's the whole reason that there's threats of bad things, just so the Jewish people will return back. And then the bad thing will go away. Anyway, so he said, Isaiah, too bad. Your time is up. You're going to die. And he said, okay, I'll promise I'll get married. It's not going to help. You're going to die anyway. So he turned his face to the wall and he prayed, and God gave him another, 20 years or something. He prayed. You look it up and prayed. So it says, Chizkiyahu turned his face to the wall and he prayed. It's in Isaiah. And similarly also in Malachim, in the story with the kings also, the after King David. The Hakeshur, this is the whole idea of the Moshiach. Because the God wanted to make Chezkiyahu, wanted to make him the Moshiach, like I said before. And the prayer of Chezkiyahu, the same story is mentioned in Kings also. The same in Chezkiyahu, there were 3 days before this prayer of Chezkiyahu. This was 3 days before Sennacherib was destroyed. Amazing story. Sennacherib had an army of 100,000 men, and he laid siege to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was finished. There was no way that it could. And the prophet came to, or God Himself came to Chezkiel and said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of them. I'll take care of them. You take it easy." It says Chezkiel, he went to sleep, and he woke up in the morning, and the whole army of Sennacherib had been destroyed by God. Destroyed. An angel came and destroyed the whole thing. So he said, this story about Sennacherib, this was 3 days after God answered Chezkiel's prayer to not to die. It says he turned his face to the wall, kir. Wall is the numerical value of 310. Sha'al kir, by means of the physical wall, namely the physical world, which becomes united with true godliness, is drawn down what's called 310 worlds, Shai Olamos. Also the numerical value of Yesh. Yesh means physicality. That the 310 worlds of spirituality, this is a gift, a Shai. The word Shai also means a gift. Namely, drawing down the highest level, the gift of God, it comes from the Yesh, the physical world. Take the letters, turn it around. And that's the numerical value of Kir, the physical wall that he prayed to. So the physical world itself will reveal a tremendous high level of God. The Rebbe makes a footnote. And the request and the will of God, that God's thought is considered to be deed, for certainly will be accomplished. God said Moshiach is going to come. He's going to come because of our work. For sure, it's going to happen. Similarly, like what it was with Yechezkel. Chezkiel, the king Yechezkel, he drew down and united with King David, who King David was the Moshiach. And that's why it says Chezkiel was supposed to be the Moshiach. That's all these prophecies about Isaiah. It ended up that Chezkiel's daughter married, no, Chezkiel's son married Isaiah's daughter. And he thought that maybe the merit of both of them, they would have good sons, and they weren't good sons. It ended up that he gave birth to what's his name, to Menashe. That he was the worst of all. He killed and he murdered, he raped, he was just awful. And God forgave him. Menashe, God forgave him. He did sins for like whatever, 10 years straight, and he convinced all the Jewish people to follow his example and do sins, which goes without saying, was a very popular king. And then, so nevertheless, he did tshuva also. But that's except for the story. The story is that by means of the physical world can be revealed the essence of what God is. That's what it says. Chezkiel said, as soon as he got the promise from God, don't worry about the 100,000 murderous soldiers of Sennacherib that are going to come and kill everybody in the whole city of Jerusalem, and there's nothing you can do about it. Don't worry about it, says God. Leave it up to me. And Chezkiel, that all he cared about was his people. He was only thinking about the benefit, the good of the people. That's Moshiach. He cares about all the people. That's his main concern, is the Jews. And here he's surrounded by these murderous guys that any day, any moment they're going to come in. And God said, don't worry. He said he went to sleep on his bed. Amen. So with us too. We don't have to worry. Mashiach for sure is going to come. We can be rest assured that it's going to happen. As we're going to talk about tomorrow. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. We're going to get tomorrow and Friday. Okay, let us do the Yom Yom.